Hello and welcome to our Startup Women's Industry Advisory Circle for Women in Retail and E-Comm. I'm Isabel Nolan. I'm the Program Manager for the Startup Women and Startup Global programs at Startup Canada. To begin, I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which I'm on today is located on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We also acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of all Indigenous people. I encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory that you're residing on today. Today's session is being recorded and we'll add it to our Startup Women Resource Guide along with any resources shared throughout today's session. A little bit about Startup Canada. It's a national nonprofit that is the gateway to Canada's entrepreneurial ecosystem. We're here to connect entrepreneurs with the support, community, and tools that they need to build a successful business in Canada. Since launching in 2012, Startup Canada has grown to support more than 130,000 entrepreneurs annually and an ever-growing community of ecosystem partners from coast to coast to coast. Dedicated to showing up to women all year round, Startup Women is an annual program offering support for early-stage women identifying entrepreneurs across Canada through topic-focused webinars, industry advisory circles like this, and meetings with startup women leaders. We know that when you support women, you support a nation. Through these monthly industry advisory circles, we'll provide attendees with a deeper understanding of trends and best practices within their sector and leave with actionable takeaways and resources that they can implement into their business. We have a short message from our co-presenting partner, the Scotiabank Women's Initiative, that Maddie will play now.
The Scotiabank Women Initiative is dedicated to your success on your terms.
I'm shaping our industry's vision for the future.
I can expand my business without borrowing from my family.
I know I can face anything thanks to my network.
I'm ready for my next chapter.
I'm inspiring future leaders.
I'm making sure my family's future is secure.
Define your success, and we'll help you achieve it. With unbiased access to capital and tailored solutions, bespoke specialized education, and holistic advisory services and mentorship. Join our community of women today, the Scotiabank Women Initiative.
Thanks so much. We also have another representative from our other co-presenting partner, UPS, Rowena. Rowena, if you'd like to come on screen and tell us about UPS.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Hear you great.
Okay, awesome. So thank you for the introduction and invitation to join you all today. My name is Rowena Sang. I am the Segmentation Director for UPS Canada. My role at UPS is to meet businesses to review their entire supply chain from website and shipping cart functionality to managing returns. My role is to offer relevant solutions and suggestions that can lower costs, improve the customer experience, and ultimately improve the bottom line. Retail is never boring. Market landscape and customer expectations are always changing. The world of retail is constantly bending and shifting. What's hot at this moment may not be the next. The upstream supply chain needs to be limber and flexible and reliable to ensure your products are available before the peak demand occurs. Managing the logistics of the product is one thing, however, downstream is equally as important. What does your customer experience in the final mile today look like? How do you meet the demands of today's customers? What solutions are you offering to improve the overall experience? And how do you pivot as your customers' needs change? There's so many aspects in retail to be concerned about, from accessing new global markets, managing seasonality, improving inventory and order accuracy, shipping costs, fulfillment, returns, how to even get your customers back on your website to order more. That's a very long list. And if you find the right shipping partner, we can definitely help provide not just the consultation, but also the expertise and options in navigating this very complex supply chain. We have the tools and technology to support retail businesses of all sizes, and we continue to invest in new offerings to help you be more competitive. For example, we know what it feels like. I know myself, shopping, waiting through the weekend for that particular delivery. If I could only have that shirt, that pair of pants, then, my weekend is set. I could wear a new outfit. So knowing that's the consumer's demands, as the first integrated carrier, UPS now operates 6 days a week, delivering on Saturday. This is a turnkey solution. There is no additional costs to the retailer or to the consumer. It's a complimentary service. And to further satiate the anticipation, we will be providing 2-hour delivery window and offer live map visibility and access to the location of their order on a secured platform. This will definitely help, cure the anticipation, and at the same time, for high value items or items that need signature required or bulky items, this will give the customers that level of convenience and option and allow them to schedule accordingly. So with these tools, we help give retail companies a competitive edge by complementing your products with a great service. But it doesn't stop there. To remain relevant, UPS is committed to devoting resources to continue to understand the market, evaluate the impact of existing solutions, assess opportunities to improve the overall customer experience. And obviously, with our solutions, we try and make them all turnkey so that, like I said, businesses of all sizes can use. I'm looking forward to today's conversation. I hope you will enjoy today's sessions. And if you have any questions, my contacts will be provided. Please reach out and I'd be more than happy to help. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining today, Rowena. And yes, any questions at all relating to shipping or those logistical pieces, please feel free to reach out to Rowena in the chat today. She can provide more advice for you. Also, quick shout out and thank you to our program partners, Expert Development Canada, Mastercard, and YSpace Ella, as well as our range of community ecosystem partners that we shared a list of in the chat. So, as I mentioned, today's conversation is centered around women in retail and e-commerce. And before we dive into it, I just want to take all the attendees through exactly what you can expect through the next 2 or so hours of your day. So in a moment, will actually turn to you, the attendees, to do a quick introduction of yourself. You can either do this on camera or in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with. If your camera is on, I will assume that you're comfortable introducing yourself on camera. So just let us know your name, a quick sentence or two about your business, and perhaps what you're looking to get out of today's conversation, so that myself and the speakers have a better sense of who's in the room and how we can best facilitate today's conversation. We'll then go on to our entrepreneur expert talks. We've got 3 fantastic speakers today that will take you through their journey as to how they got into the retail and e-com space. Then we'll move on to our panel discussion. This will last about an hour or so, and we'll kind of dive more into the nitty-gritty pieces of the conversation. This is also where I will highly encourage all of you to ask your questions. We'll give priority to your questions. I really want to ensure that you get all of your questions answered today. So you can do this again, either by coming on camera and asking the question face to face, or if you're more comfortable asking in the chat, I can ask on your behalf as well. The final segment will be our networking breakout rooms. So these are sort of like speed dating networking with more intention. So we'll do about 3 to 4 people in each breakout room for about 8 to 10 minutes. And
yeah, Mom. Yes, about that lady. No, I was saying to you that St. Michael's had called. You, yeah. Just to confirm your.
Can I ask if
on Monday can you?
Sorry, can I just make sure that you're on mute unless you are speaking? Thank you so much. So for the network breakout rooms, This is your chance to meet each other. Presumably, if you're attending today, you're working within the retail and e-com space, so you got to meet with each other. We'll put the speakers into some of these rooms as well. So if there's something you'd like to work through specifically, if you're looking for a connection to you know, a mentor or an investor or a supply chains logistical person, this is sort of your moment to be able to do that and build out your community. So that is what the next 2 or so hours will look like. And we're going to get into our attendee introductions now. So like I said, if you have your camera on, I'll assume that you're comfortable introducing yourself on camera. So the first person I have is Melissa.
Hi everyone.
Hi,
yes.
Melissa.
So my name is Melissa, and basically mornings I founded a company called Baby Steps, and ideally we make mornings easier for parents with adaptive clothing for children with disabilities. So my whole line is based on making unconventional clothing that fit the needs of people with physical disabilities. So that's my clothing line.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Melissa. Next person is Shanice.
Hi, my name is Shanice. I'm in the process of just starting a clothing business. It's just basically centered around like self-care and just boosting your confidence and self-esteem. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining today. Next I have Nikki.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nikki, and I am the owner of Blue Line Fitness Testing in Edmonton, Alberta. So we provide fitness testing for people that are looking to get into law enforcement. So not retail, but we are definitely, all of our services are booked online. So really interested in the e-commerce strategies and things like that you guys are going to be talking about today.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Nikki. Next up is Leon. Leon or Leona? No? Okay, we'll go to the next person. Caitlin.
Hello. I have a plus size thrift store called Curvy Britches. It's in Calgary, Alberta. I have a brick and mortar, but I'm expanding to the online sales. So I'm just kind of hoping to get some information on that to try and make both platforms successful.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining. And Ashley.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Kizzes. I'm the founder and social entrepreneur of Kid Unified. Kid Unified makes the most inclusive children's puzzles available on the market today. So better inclusion of gender expressions, children with disabilities, cultures and ethnicities than any other puzzle products. So right now we're waiting for our second puzzle to arrive here in Canada, and then we'll be launching on Amazon and then direct to retailers as well, but looking for wider distribution opportunities. And of course, any advice on e-commerce is always great. Looking at better shipping opportunities as well to make that more feasible for customers. It's good to be here.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Kathy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kathy Pellerin, and I have an immigration company. And all my clients are mostly outside of Canada, and I'm going into the tech industry with immigration products to facilitate immigration. I was also thinking about like booklets and podcast things like that. So I'm really looking forward to understand a little bit more e-commerce in order to drive more traffic in the international markets where most of my clients are. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kathy. Is there anyone else that would like to come on screen to share a little bit about themselves? I'll give you a few moments to do so if you would like.
I am not really on screen, but if it's okay to just mention, I'm interested in hearing anything about how I can communicate confidentially with clients while still employing some of the e-commerce strategies, things like file sharing and how do I send documents to them in a manner that's not going to breach confidentiality or be potentially subject to a warrantless search, that kind of thing. So I'm really concerned about things like the client confidentiality component of e-commerce. So if there's someone that's going to talk about that, that's what I'm really super interested in.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, I'll make a note of that and see if any of our speakers can speak on that topic. Miranda, if you'd like to introduce yourself. I think I saw you introduce yourself in the chat, but if you'd like to do that also on screen. Oh, I think your microphone might be on mute. No worries, that's okay. Maybe it's not connected properly. All good. No worries, all good. All right, so if we are done with all of our attendee introductions, then we're going to go straight into our entrepreneur expert talks. So without further ado, I'm very honored to introduce our speakers for the day. And speakers, maybe you can give us a little bit of a wave so that the attendees know who you are. So we have Kate Tremills. She is the CEO and co-founder of Flourish Kitchen. Nita Tandon, the founder of Dalcini Stainless, and Sarah Elder-Chamanara, founder of Madame Premier. Thank you all so much for being here and for donating your time and expertise to today's conversation. We're going to kick off our expert talks with Nita. So Nita, you have the floor to share your journey with us.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I want to thank you for even hosting a platform like this, because when I first started, I certainly didn't have this. So wonderful that you're doing this. So my name's Nita Tandon. I'm the founder and CEO of Dalcini Stainless. And our company, we make stainless steel housewares. We started out with food containers that were more like kids' lunch, was kind of the demographic we were going after. And we have since grown from 2 products to 21 products. We are in 3 countries, and we started with e-commerce. We moved to B2B, but then we moved back to e-commerce. So we've done a lot of flip-flopping through the pandemic, and I'm happy to speak on both of those. I guess the real reason why I started was, like most women, they found a need, their personal need that wasn't satisfied. And so they decided to venture out. And for me, that was, I had a long career in pharmaceuticals. And while I was there, I was able to look at a lot of research about BPA. And Canada was the first country in the world to ban BPA, but they only banned it in baby bottles. It's still widely used in food storage containers. It's also the #1 way we are ingesting hormone disrupting chemicals. And microplastics. It's also the #1 plastic in general, but plastic and glass is the #1 category of waste that's filling up landfills. And so I had 2 big problems that I wanted to solve. I went out looking for lunch containers for my family, and when I couldn't find them, I decided to make them. And that's really how we got started. I didn't have a business background. I didn't have connections in business. It really was starting from the ground up. Everything I've learned has sort of been in 1 step at a time. So I'm happy to share what I've learned, and I'm also excited to hear how everyone else is doing, because I think we learn not necessarily how long you've been in the business, but everyone has an expertise, but they know more of something than the other.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nita. And yeah, absolutely. Everyone here has wisdoms and knowledge that they can share with each other, and you never know who or what a conversation will make. So next we will pass it over to Kate to share her story.
Hey everyone, I'm Kate Tremills. I'm the CEO and co-founder. I'm the co-founder of Flourish Kitchen. So maybe I'm a flounder today. So we make travel-friendly meals for women who are super busy, have big dreams, and also have digestive sensitivities. So they are designed for folks who have probably been told by a health professional to be, it's called a low FODMAP diet. So it's, if you're super stressed, things get inflamed, and you need to basically be eating foods that don't aggravate that. And then we're also gluten-free and dairy-free. So much like Nita, this, and like you said, she said it so beautifully, which is, I think a lot of us as women who start companies are doing it because we really recognize there was a need in the market. And that's true for me as well. Travel is one of my greatest joys. And it's also, we talk about a lot of the things that stress us that we don't like, but there are things we do that stress us that we love. And travel is one of those for me. So, and I know for a lot of women who are either have really crazy schedules and or they're traveling a lot, what happens is you end up enjoying eating out for a little while, and then it progressively, what happens for me is it steals my energy and I feel worse and worse, and then I'm not really enjoying my trip anymore. So we've created a line of meals and also what we call add-ons. So basically simple things that you can take with you. You can carry it on a plane, you can carry it in your car, and it just takes hot water and you have a really yummy meal. So so my background is very much in the marketing storytelling space. I've been essentially a consultant and an entrepreneur for a very long time. And part of the reason we got really excited about we're primarily e-comm at this point, and we don't have our plan does not include going into large retailers other than possibly Costco and Amazon as warehousers. And the reason for that is because as part of my background, we had a very high-end bike retail store for 10 years. So my co-founder and I have really done the retail space, and we are very, very excited about selling direct to our customers and sharing with their story and meeting them exactly where they are on their journey. So anywhere that we're going to sell our products, we want it to be where they are, as opposed to getting them to go to a retail store. And also we're just really excited about this particular business model and being able to share that story and hear their stories directly. So I'm super excited about being able to have that conversation directly with our customers rather than through a retailer. So I know there's going to be a ton of experience here between all of us to share. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kate. And finally, I'll invite Sarah to share her story.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Elder-Chamanara, and I'm based in Calgary, Alberta, but I'm originally from BC. And before moving to Alberta, I had a career in partisan politics. And politics influences and touches every one of our lives, whether you realize it or want it to or not. And I, as a woman working in politics, would often find myself as either one or maybe one or two of women in the room. And so my passion became advocating for the increased participation of women in politics. And after I left working in partisan politics and moved to Alberta, I was able to combine my loves of fashion and politics by launching a political and feminist brand called Madame Premier in 2019. In 2021, I opened a bricks and mortar store located on a main street here in Calgary. And so I started off by selling online, and now I sell both online and in person. And if anyone has any questions specific to, for example, the challenges in terms of the economy and what small businesses are facing right now in that area, I'm happy to talk about that as well. But it was really, I was answering like many people, many women, especially founders, I was creating something for myself and then was delighted to know that other people wanted to wear and share their political values, not only advocating for women in politics, but obviously every space that's underrepresented, which is literally everything. And so if you want to take a look and kind of see what I make, you can go to madampremier.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram at Madam Premier. I say Madam, but it's actually pronounced Madame, like the French. I thought it looked a little bit empty without the E. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about in my areas of expertise. That being said, to everyone's points before me, you're also experts in your own business, and all of you know something that I don't know. So I'm here to learn today from you as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah. So attendees, I hope that gives you a great sense of who our speakers are today. But yeah, echoing Sarah, Kate, and Nita, I believe everyone has their own knowledge and wisdom to share with each other today. So we're going to move into our panel discussion now, and you'll hear me say this a few times because I really want to ensure people feel comfortable and safe asking their questions, but please don't be afraid to ask your questions. We're here for you today. I've drafted a bunch of questions, but I always think it's a better sign when we hardly get to the questions that I've drafted and we just listen to what you have to say. But I can start off with asking a few of mine to kind of warm everyone up, so you have an idea of perhaps what you could be asking our speakers today. And like I said, you can ask it on camera or you can ask it in the chat, and I'm more than happy to ask on your behalf. So we'll start off sort of nice and easy to kind of open up the conversation a little bit. So as I'm sure everyone's aware, starting a business comes with a lot of obstacles. So to each of our speakers, what are some significant challenges that you faced in the early days? But then how did you overcome them? Or perhaps is it still something you're overcoming? Nita, can I point to you first, please?
Well, I'll first start by saying I was very naive when I started the company. So I really thought that the world was equal and that men and women had equal opportunity to everything. And whether you are an immigrant or you're several generations in Canada, everything was equal. That really was the viewpoint that I came with. And then when I started the company, I realized that that wasn't the case. So one of the issues, so, you know, my situation was I started a separate bank account when I first started the company. I wanted a separate account for business and separate for personal. I was very lucky because I had a banker who knew my history. I'd had a long history with them. They actually said, can we start you with a cash injection to start your business? Which is absolutely unheard of. Everyone says, well, did you have to bring in a business plan or something like that? So I had a relationship with my bank. Where I had difficulty was trying to get a larger line of credit. And that became difficult. And one of the reasons why was because as an immigrant, when you come to this country, you don't have a lot of assets. And any of your financial history starts with when you come to Canada. So if I don't have grandparents that have, you know, passed on any kind of wealth, or parents that are still living, so there is no transfer of wealth, my assets are minimal compared to the average Canadian that has several generations here. So generational wealth was difficult. How I came about that was I kept talking about it. I kept mentioning it, and I kept having this attitude of I deserve to be here and I deserve equal access. And so I did engage in those conversations with my bank. My bank then took that up with EDC. EDC then worked. This was all in the background. I didn't know it was happening. And then I did get my line of credit extended. So I guess, you know, the issue is you're going to face challenges because, you know, for so long, the perception was of men doing business. And every system is set up for, and I will say, white men doing business. So every system seems to be set up to power that channel, that side, and everything that women are doing seems to somehow come up against it. So, you know, for example, I was applying for grants, and the grant was for sustainability. But when you answer all the questions to see whether you qualify, it was sustainable energy. Well, I'm not energy, so does that mean that I don't have access to the grants? And so when the politicians say, oh, there's 100 million going towards this, but the women of color, the women that are doing things differently aren't getting access to it. So I guess definitely there's going to be some obstacles, but my challenge to everyone here is to really take the side that you deserve to be here. You deserve access as a Canadian to have any of the resources that are coming out, and to vocalize it, not come out angry, because people don't necessarily want to hear anger, but come up with solutions and have real dialogue. And I would also say to any business, really rely on your partners. And for me, those partnerships, and this isn't because you guys are sponsoring it, but it's been UPS, it's been my bank, it has been these people that have helped me get out of situations time and time again. And because they have the wealth of information, rely on them. And they have contacts far beyond me as one single person can. So yes, there's going to be obstacles. I'm happy to answer any of the other ones, but I won't go into every single one over the past 9 years. But financing is definitely one.
Thanks so much, Nina. Yeah, fantastic points there. And we will get into funding and financing today's conversation as well. But I think, yeah, to your point, leaning on those partners or even just your connections. And so hopefully today you will be able to make some of those connections that down the line you'll be able to lean on a little bit. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing about that. Kate, how about yourself? Challenges in the early days and how you overcame them?
Yeah, there's so many tangible ones. Like if you've heard any of the stats about women getting funding or not getting funding, really, we're still in the single digits compared to men getting funding. But I would say also what was really tricky for me was that I had been in, I wasn't running a business like I am, like a store, an actual e-com retail business yet. And when I was in any entrepreneurial spaces, I would look around and it was 98, maybe even 99% men, and white men, and probably men typically like over 40. So I found it really tricky to actually even see myself in those spaces, like to believe that I too was an entrepreneur. And not only wasn't I an entrepreneur, but I had something fresh and unique to bring to this space. So a lot of the challenges that I ran into in the beginning was just honestly thinking they all had this like secret knowledge that they passed to each other all the time. And I just had to somehow crack that code. And then I finally got to a place where I was like, wait, I don't actually admire the way that they're doing this. I get that there's a whole lot of knowledge that I definitely would love to be privy to and that I will receive. But at the same time, one of the things that I find most exciting about my own journey and the journey of like being in groups like this of women is that we have a different way of doing this. And I think it's healthier and I think it is more sustainable. I have worked very hard I've worked in burnout cultures before, and I basically made the promise to myself as I do this business that I am not willing to sacrifice my well-being, my relationships, my friendships, my family. There's so much that I've watched men decimate in their lives in order to have a successful business. And so I think a big thing that I've been getting over is just because they do it that way doesn't mean it's the right way, or doesn't mean it's the way that we get to bring to the world. So I've been super excited to be part of groups of women who are, just by us gathering today, we are changing things. Like we are already in the process of changing how this is done. And that is really exciting to me because it actually fuels me with the courage to keep going and learning. And as the lovely Stacey's from Stacey's Rise said, she's like, if you're not comfortable failing over and over and over again, you're in the wrong game. So I had to get really comfortable with knowing that failure is a part of this game. And it really just doesn't mean I'm a failure. It just means I'm failing at something to learn. So that's been a big one for me.
I love that. Failing at something so that you can learn from it. I'll definitely take that into my everyday mantra for sure. Thank you so much, Kate. And Sarah, how about yourself? Specific challenges in those early days?
Well, I really like Kate's talking about failure, and I just want to share something because it was a reframing opportunity for me. So Everyone here has probably heard of Elon Musk, the billionaire, one of the world's richest people. We all have likely lots of opinions about him, but what he is generally considered by our capitalist, patriarchal society and in general is a success. And I think it was maybe a month or two ago where he launched one of his multi-billion, $1 million rockets. And although it successfully left like Earth, it did explode. And that the way that and the narrative around that was, yes, it exploded, but it was a success. And for me, that was really an opportunity to think about how to redefine things that don't work in my own life, in my own business, as, you know, the rocket or whatever it may be, a product, a relationship, even something. You can apply it to so many different things. Even though it doesn't, you know, successfully touch back down, there's still successes in that, and how you define and shape that narrative and control that narrative is really important. So that's just food for thought for someone or for anyone who might want to think about Elon Musk and his failures and successes. But generally speaking, I mean, I launched my business in 2019. I had one child, or actually two at the time. I had, kind of a newborn and a 1.5-year-old. And then little did the world know that we would be heading into a COVID pandemic. And so I think, you know, a significant challenge for me was adapting my business, managing that time, having two kids at home, really having to like change how, you know, I was doing things. My husband all of a sudden was working from home, and I was the one with the flexibility in terms of my work. And so it really became about, you know, our baby and our 1.5-year-old through those years. But then, you know, seeing what I thought at the time was an opportunity to start a retail business that would anticipate the world wanting to reconnect after it was over. And that hasn't quite worked out the way I thought it would, now being in 2024. So there, like, I mean, I could give you a lot of examples of challenges. But you know, it's there will always be people who find opportunity at those difficult times. It's just about making sure that you're the one who's finding that opportunity and not someone else.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Sarah. And what I'm sort of getting from each of you is yes, of course, there will absolutely be challenges, but it's how you get back up or how you work around them, or where you go to for support to get through it is sort of the main piece to take away from that. So we have a couple questions coming in, and like I said, I want to give priority to our attendees' questions. So one of the questions that came through the chat, and Sarah, I know that you replied to it, but I just want to open it up to the other speakers in case they have any other insights. But Faria asked, do you have any insights on e-commerce trends with the exponential inflation rate affecting people across North America? So they are selling luxury items, so they're wondering, should they delay luxury items that might be at a premium price? Any further advice on that question?
I can answer that one. So luxury pricing is, you know, there's this perception that everybody wants cheaper goods, less expensive goods. But the truth is there's a market for every price point, and luxury brands tend to still do well. We had trialed a couple of different things, and we're considered a luxury brand as well. We had trialed doing all sorts of discounts or providing products without any discounts, but we would offer free shipping. We did pricing where you got free shipping after you spent $150. So we tried all these different things. And interestingly enough, the luxury space, people continue to buy, and people buy at larger volumes. And so for each order was always over $150. So during the pandemic, our average cart size ended up being about $125. So our perception was that everyone was struggling. The truth was the people that were struggling more, and the people that were flourishing more. There was more disposable income for higher income levels than ever before. And so I think it's really important to, whatever your brand strategy is in terms of pricing, stick with it and don't change too much, because the customer gets confused. But also trust that your customer, there's a spot for you, whether you're luxury or cheaper end. I don't want to say cheaper, I mean less expensive. Sorry, reframe that.
Yeah. More in yeah, absolutely. So do you think that maybe that goes into if they should put more focus or strategy around what their brand and storytelling is, and more focusing on perhaps why they are this price point rather than sort of competing at the lower price points?
Yes, and I would also say invest in your images. I find images are very important for that luxury brand. They want to invest in the lifestyle, in the beauty, I mean, if you look at products that are sold at Walmart versus stuff that's sold at Williams-Sonoma, the images are different when you shop online. And so figure out where is your space and emulate the store that would most likely hold your products. And I think that's usually a good guideline. I find images, because you're not a salesperson, like you can't go into the store and tell them about all your the benefits of your product. You can't verbalize that one-on-one. Your product and your images have to be your salesperson. And to bring people in, images do that quickly, whether that's with Facebook ads, whether that's on your website, and spend the time just really developing your brand and the why that you have done that, the benefits of bringing that product to your, to your customer. Just really spell it out that way.
All right, thank you so much, Nita. Yeah, Kate, go right ahead.
Yeah, I love everything Nita's saying, especially because I think you have to really own your space. So for example, at Flourish, we call ourselves a lifestyle brand because we know that people are going to pay a little more for the quality of our product. Well, this is our niche. And also because it's about the experience when they're traveling and they're doing things that are far more about lifestyle. And there's tons of products that are technically similar to what we are, but they're targeting, say, the outdoor space or folks who are, hiking or camping or things like that. And so exactly like Nita said, it really is so very much about, we're just in the process of really like upgrading our images and also your packaging. And I would definitely say own your story, like just know who your customer is and really own that experience. You're not trying to reach somebody who is necessarily in your particular, like around your product. They're not necessarily pinching pennies. So I would basically say, I know, speaking for myself and understanding customer journey, there are places where I'll be really careful about how I spend my money. And there's other places where I will spend, like, I just don't even care because the need and the desire is there. So the price point is not as relevant to me because it really matters to me to spend money in that space. So I think when it comes to luxury, you just really own your customer and present so that you fit in the niche. And as soon as they show up on your website, they really understand, oh yes, this is the experience I want. And they go with it. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Kate. Yeah, really building out further than the product is that lifestyle piece is a great point. Thank you. We have a question from Jancy in the Q&A box. It's directed at Nita, but I think it works to point this at all of our speakers a little bit. So Nita, I'll go to you first with the question. They're asking, could you please share your decision to go purely into e-commerce? That's where I am going back and forth between starting only as an e-commerce, the website is in progress, and getting into B2B as well. They were in a couple of artisan stores. It was time consuming and a lot of work for return on investment.
That's a great question. So when I first started, it was initially e-commerce only, and what I loved about it is because you're developing you're gathering data, and I would see if there was going to be any returns. I was going to see if there was going to be any issues. We have a lifetime warranty on Rust. Well, if I'm going to say lifetime warranty, someone's going to write me if there's an issue. I want to know about that before any retailer finds out about that. I want to know about that because before it becomes a massive problem. So I think e-commerce is great because you can really work customer to customer. I ended up selling exclusively on e-commerce until retail stores started to call me. So I didn't even pursue it. They called me and said, can we sell some of your products? And I started with smaller retailers. And then for that same reason, I could establish a relationship with a small storefront and find out from their customers if there was any issues with the problems or with the products. We ended up slowly growing. And then I can figure out what's the next product I need to bring in, because I'm having direct conversations with customers. You can send out a follow-up email. You can ask them, how did they like that particular product? You can say if there was an opportunity to have another follow-up product, what would you like? We ended up getting a condiment container. So we had a sandwich container and round snack containers. We had a customer tell us that they wanted to have a smaller, tiny little one for condiments. We would have never, ever, ever gone there had we not got that from customers. And so now we sell that. All of our additional add-on products, we knew which ones were selling better than the others. We also know which area that we need to explain more. So for example, sustainability. We just assumed that our knowledge was what the customer understood. No, in 2015, people did not understand sustainability. And when we talked about circular economy, people didn't really understand what that was. And so it just gives you an opportunity to spend money on things that people care about. And how you find that out is essentially free from each one of your customers. And figuring out when is the time to go into retail stores, you'll get a gut feel. And especially if you have retailers that come and approach you. The other is if you have a lot of, so I'm in Ottawa, if I get a lot of customers all in the Burlington area that are purchasing our product, I would think, is there a small retail store there that I can approach? So rather than think that it has to be an all or nothing, it can be a gradual, and you kind of play it out until you're really confident about your product, and then you expand.
Can I add something to this conversation in a different vein?
Yeah.
So I think depending on where you are and what space, so if you're online only, if you are business to business, if you are bricks and mortar, depending on where you want to go and what your ability to go there is, I think that what really drives my motivation in deciding that is margin. So are you even able, depending on the margin, with your cost of goods, and is that something that you can honestly do, or is it something you can't give up the margin on and you need to keep doing yourself? So my advice would be to look at the financial aspect of it, not just do you want to do this, but can you do it financially?
Hey, Sarah. Thank you, Nita. Thank you. That was very helpful. Sarah, can I ask you a follow-up question on that? So my products do fall into the luxury brand. So in the artisan stores, because of the store fee, the price goes even higher. So customers always have that question. So I need to explain that. That's totally fine. I'm thinking from the customer's perspective, I would like to cut that cost as well. And for some reason, it's a lot of manual work. So I was planning to cut on the time and cut the cost for the customers too.
So I'm not sure if I understand your question. Do you mind restating that?
Yeah, so the question is would customers be okay with that additional fee from the storefront?
I mean, I really think that depends on your product. And
sorry, my products are aromatherapy products, candles and diffusers.
Yeah, but I mean, even some people, it depends, I think, what sector of business you're in, that people are more comfortable with that add-on fee than others. I mean, even personally, I mean, this isn't, you know, I can see how it applies to your question. I'm going to share something. So, you know, when I go into, for example, people are asking me to tip now more than ever in different areas, in places where they've never asked for tips before. And so as a consumer, I am thinking like, well, why didn't you bake this into the price, into your cost of goods, right? Because like, are you honestly not, like in this way, are you not paying your employees enough? Like it leads me to have a lot of questions. So it could be, you know, if you're thinking about putting like a fee in the transaction, I mean, I think it'd be worth testing to see if you can just bake that, if you can add it into the cost without making it transparent. But I think that really depends on what your item is, and who your customer is, because they might just expect, or they could even be offended that they're being asked to pay for more for something that they just expect. And I would say that when it comes to luxury items, people have a higher level of expectation and expect that there's not only a higher level of service, but a higher level of packaging, a higher level of customer service for troubleshooting any issues, and they expect their experience to be seamless. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I hope so.
It does. It does. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Sarah, for jumping in on that question. And thank you, Jancy, for that question also. We have another question here from Yulia, and they're wondering, how do you track your marketing efforts? Do you use any specific software for this? I'll throw it out to all of our speakers who would like to take that on.
So I really started with minimal expenses. And so the way I grew my business was, if I didn't have to pay for something, I don't. I really just started one by one, selling little things, just gathering data, just learning and learning and learning. And when it came to marketing spend, it was, let's just try this. If it works, let's do more of it and pull back. But I kind of have the similar thing if I go to a casino, which is I'm taking $20 to the slot machines, and when I'm done, I'm done. And I kind of did the same thing with marketing, which is I'm going to have a budget of this much. You set what that is, you figure out what's working, what's not, but always monitoring it. But when you hit that cap, don't spend more, because there is a time when you can trial too much and you're not getting anything in return. And so I also think marketing can be a big suck of resources. Make sure you always have cash flow to try something new. And maybe it's not marketing, maybe it's a partnership with someone, maybe it's you know, a marketplace, maybe there's so many different opportunities. Just don't sink it all into one area hoping it's going to work.
Thanks, Nina. Kate, yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, I would definitely say don't do too many things at once, because it will definitely overwhelm you and probably it will muddy what your results are. The other thing that we've done, because we're e-com marketing and putting the word out there is really important, because we don't have anybody walking into a store and discovering our product. So it's really key for us to kind of put things out there for folks to find us and to leverage SEO, so Google searching and things like that. If you have a really specific niche, which is part of the reason why we chose such a specific niche, is we knew there were a lot of people searching for what we're selling and they weren't finding it. So when we're choosing marketing efforts, we choose a really specific amount of money, like Nita said, and a really specific goal and a really specific amount of time, because otherwise it will blow. You can spend so much time and money and effort. You could spend probably 80% of your business time on marketing. So we've definitely leveraged giveaways on social media, and that's worked very well for us to grow areas where it used to be a lot easier to grow your following on social media, and it's a lot more challenging now. So, and using advertising, things like Google Ads, because you can get one of the real perks to being e-com as opposed to being necessarily in a retail store is that you do get all that data. So you can see what people are responding to and what they're not responding to, which is great. And then of course, once you have people, your newsletter is a really powerful way to put the word out there. So if you can encourage people to join your list, we use Klaviyo because it basically integrates with Shopify really well. It's a great app and gives you phenomenal data. You can go like, yeah, there's so much that you can do. There's also really great people you can hire if you don't want to. This is something that I am preaching to my co-founder right now. It's like, we do not have to be, as Denise Duffield Thomas calls it, just because you're the CEO does not mean you're the chief everything officer. You're actually the chief executive officer. You're the one who executes. You're not doing everything, which you can probably hear from my voice. The other thing that someone put out to me that I thought was really great, it does require time. It does require connecting with folks, but actually it's not a lot of money, which is that if you have access to podcasts and things like that, it's a great marketing channel to actually spread the word and tell your story. I'm a big proponent of doing like podcast tours, but same thing, decide what you want your result to be. Be really clear about that and decide on the amount of time you're going to give it, because those things, I think as entrepreneurs, we can tend to think we have all the time in the world. And trust me, that is going to be the resource you are going to burn through like you're lighting money on fire. It's just time will disappear. Trust me on that.
Thanks, Kate. And Sarah, I'm curious to know, did you use any marketing data to help you when you were opening up your in-person store, or in terms of like what products you were going to be selling there, or
well, I mean, so the way that I started my brand is by designing things myself and making them myself. And then it was, I don't remember exactly what month it was, but I have another friend who makes inclusive sized, ethically made clothing here in Calgary. And one day I saw her say online, oh, if you want, we can add a card to your order for like however much if you are sending your order as a gift. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's selling clothes, but she can sell cards. And I was like, actually emailed her and said, like, Lindsay, do you mind if I also sell cards, as if like she somehow owns this? And she was like, yeah, right. Like, why are you asking me? But in that way, I kind of like needed permission to think I could actually expand my business beyond things that I was making and selling myself. And so I started selling cards, and I call that my gateway drug, actually, because I still have a huge passion for cards. And I'd have to say it's the area of the store where it's not often you go into a place and you hear people just like laughing out loud by themselves. But that's what the card area of the store is. But that led me to selling all kinds of things. And even, I can remember, for example, receiving an order of something, and I was like so excited, and I wanted to show my husband, because at this time my business was still being run from our home. And he was like, why is this funny? I don't get it. And I was like, Allie, it's because this wasn't made for you. This was made for me and other women who have a similar sense of humor and have a desire to see, who just get it. And you're not part of this. Like, I didn't say this, but he's not my audience. He honestly isn't. That's not who my audience is. That's not who my customer is. And so realizing, what you can offer and how you can offer it is really important. I will say, even if you start out on the base plan on Shopify, you're still going to get a lot of data. Investing in a tool outside of that, like any good platform that you're on, should be giving you information. And if it's not, then I would say move on. I would say also that, if anyone here is doing everything based on numbers, amazing. But I think we're also operating a lot on gut instinct. And in that same way of going to the casino, it's like, yeah, I just have a feeling. A lot of business is just feeling, I think. And listening to that intuition and being like, yeah, this is not where this relationship isn't serving me. It's not serving my business, or I'm spending too much money and it's making me uncomfortable. It's not because maybe you don't have the money, or maybe you do. that's like a whole other thing. But again, it's making you uncomfortable. Like, listen to that voice inside of yourself. It is very important. That's probably like, it's that self-check, because you might not be getting it from someone else. Maybe, you know, you're a solopreneur like I am. I don't have someone else to run those things by, but I do have my inner voice, and I can tell if I listen to it, it is giving me important feedback.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sarah. So yeah, that was a fantastic question, and thank you to each of our speakers for diving into it. I think it was Yulia that asked that question. So Yulia, I hope that answers your question for you. So we have about 25 minutes left of this panel discussion. So if you have a question that you would like to have answered, please either put it into the chat or put it into the Q&A box. We'll happily answer that for you. But I would love to touch on the topic of funding with each of you. And Nita, I know you spoke a little bit about some of your journey with funding in terms of getting a bank loan, but so maybe I'll go to Kate and Sarah first. Obviously it's a major concern for many early stage entrepreneurs, and there are so many various different avenues you can go down, whether that's bootstrapping, getting a bank loan, applying for grants, investors. There's so many different ways that you can fund your venture. Can you maybe each share your experience on the type of funding that you secured for your business, especially when you were starting out? And what was that process like? Or, any challenges that you faced? Kate, maybe I'll go to you first.
Absolutely. So I did want to say first that I have done other businesses where we've had investors and or it's been like a split of ownership and profit. So with this one, it's been really interesting, and I do have a co-founder, so we have regular discussions about this. But we had a couple of things that so to answer the question really simply, right now we've decided to both bootstrap and go for grants as much as possible. We do have a couple of people in the wings who have followed us for long enough that they are very open-minded and willing investors. So we don't really feel the pressure to do financing rounds at this point. But we also know, at least everything from talking to the folks in my community, my understanding is investors are being a lot more cautious these days. And there seems to be either the seed round that you can go for, where essentially they're investing in you. And then basically you might have to even grow to like 2 million in sales before you really get folks interested. So we made the decision early, at least at this point, and I'm sure that will change. But at this point, we wanted to hold on to as much of the ownership as possible, and we're doing that through bootstrapping, through basically getting to market as quickly as possible. So we did what you would call a minimum viable product, so that we could really get out there and be talking to our customers and building our list and building our story and getting to market quickly. That was a huge part of our strategy. And then grants. So I'm delighted to be one of the 5 winners of the Stacey's Rise grant in Canada this year. And that was it's really just started. So that's been a huge accelerator and a huge boost for us, big time. And I will say, I know that there's probably split approaches. There's very split approaches as to whether you approach friends and family. And we're leveraging our friends and family as our ambassadors and marketers. We really didn't want to leverage them as funders. And part of that for me anyway, is because someone at a recent event in Vancouver that the forum put on said it really beautifully, which is, she was concerned that if she took money from her family, that then every time she went to do anything in her business, she was going to be factoring in that relationship and what they thought. And she just really thought it was going to end up inhibiting her choices. And I feel that way too. I think it would I know other people feel very differently and they feel very boosted by it. For me, I think it would kind of hamstring me. So we made the choice to use our friends and family to spread the word and be our enthusiastic, like, you know, marketers, but not our financiers. So that's where we are at this point.
Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing, Kate. Sarah, how about yourself? What's your funding journey look like?
I'm going to be completely transparent. I'm going to say it was $10,000 on a credit card. I didn't have any intergenerational wealth. I didn't have a trust fund. I didn't have, I didn't use a line of credit. It was really just kind of doing something that I'm sure most people would say you shouldn't do that. I do like what Kate said about friends and family. Because I think it depends on, do you want to take money from someone who might really love you, but it might be their retirement? And if this doesn't work out the way you're really hoping and dreaming it is, you know, that's a really important thing to consider versus someone who, you know, has that financial ability to maybe not miss $10,000 or $20,000 or however much it is. Grants are great if you can get them, but they are very field specific. I've never received one. There's also, because my work is political, it makes it a lot more sensitive in some ways, even though my brand is what I describe as multi-partisan. So I don't care who you vote for. I don't care, you know, really what your political ideology is. It's that women are represented in every single party, because it's not only the work of progressive political parties, in my opinion, to be represented by not only gender, but diversity. So that's like a whole other area of challenge. But, you know, however that looks like for you, I mean, depending on what your product is, you might not, the investment upfront might not need to be that large, but it's the scaling that can be really costly. And honestly, one of the biggest things for me is carrying product. So when someone goes onto my website, you know, and it happens, or even into my store, it happened on Saturday. Do you have this in a medium? I'm really sorry, but right now I'm out of medium in this specific style and design. And I was like, you know, you can check back on the website when it's restocked, because I, you know, the carrying cost of inventory can be astronomical. And it's something, one person went into my back room and said, you know, with like an asterisk beside it, you're rich, because she saw what was back there. Until that product sells, it is money simply sitting on a shelf. And so depending on what your product is, you have to take into so many different things into consideration. Do you make one to start? Do you have to make 10,000 to start? Do you have to, what's your minimum order quantity, you know, or even if you're selling business to business, are you going to set a minimum and say to another business, you need to buy 20 of this in order for it to be viable? Or, you know, can it be one, but then factor in the cost of shipping? Like, that's probably not even worth it. So that there are so many different things that go into that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thanks. Thank you for that, Sarah. And Nita, I wonder, anything further to add to this topic?
First, I would agree 100% with both Kate and Sarah that, you know, the whole funding issue, I think so many times we think of VC capital as being where we want to be. We want to get all this investment, and that's the sign of success. At the end of the day, I don't know that that's the sign of success. And I very much, like the other panelists, have been bootstrapping since the beginning. It's a tough road. And I will say also that I'm going to just put it on the table. If you are a person of color, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to get money. I have many of the people in my network, we've seen where I go to one bank and I will get a certain interest rate. Another person that is white goes to the same bank, different interest rate, and a Black woman will go and get a different rate. Many times there's a Black woman that's walked into a particular bank and they don't even believe that she's a businesswoman. So there is unconscious bias that still happens. For me, what I found was I ended up connecting with an organization called Coralus, and they were different from the get-go. They asked very simple questions. There was 5 questions. There was an open dialogue of where are my sort of pain points, and they've worked very hard to try to solve issues for all women. It's not a gender. It's even women. I think there's non-binary women in this organization. There is women from 5 different countries currently, and so there's going to be obstacles everywhere. I think the financing one is a challenge, particularly for people of color, and I think a lot of it is because of unconscious bias. Another example for me was I hit profitability at year 3, and so for me, I wanted to move out of my basement and move into a warehouse. I couldn't get a warehouse. No one would rent to me because, one, I think as a woman, they just didn't believe that I could be successful. There was also that my husband, who is white, they would want him to sign the lease. And we made it very clear that if it was my business, that I would sign it. And my attitude was, my money has value, and I want to feed it into the system that's going to value me. And so I didn't right off the bat go with ones that were very inflated prices or had me sign, so many documents that I know that the next person didn't sign, or that generally men didn't sign. And so I finally did find the right partner. I would go with them. And so sometimes my trajectory of my growth plan is a little bit different, but it's one that it's always authentically me. And that I feel like in the process, I'm kind of changing some systems along the way. Another example I can give you, again, it's not really money, it's unconscious bias, but that leads to money. I ended up working with an organization that was, everyone said this person's going to do all the social media for me. And, this company was great and the whole bit. I went and they took all my products and they said, we are so excited to get started on all the social media campaigns because we have everyone in this company. We're all tall blondes. Now, remember that this was pre-George Floyd. This was a time when we didn't really discuss race and what the differences were. This organization truly believed that if they had more white skin with my product, that my product would do better. And so what I did was I went home, thought about it, and I thought, do I either go with this company and once I make money, then I say I'm successful and things are good? Or do I rip it up and say, find the right partner? And that's what I did was I ripped it up and I said, we're going to start over. And it was a little bit slower. The world is kind of catching up to these conversations that have happened. I've been more vocal about the experiences, so I'm not going to live in a silo. And organizations are there to support you. So again, the whole financing thing, it's not just financing, it's all the pieces together that are holding your business back.
Thank you so much, Nita, for sharing that. And yeah, incredibly important and valuable and true points that you made as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to share.
Just want to add to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sorry. If you can share the link for Coralus, because they do offer 50,000, or it's even more than that. They have large sums of money. I won't even say what it is, but it's 0% interest loans paid over 5 years. And so there's people that have gone in and 30,000 was enough for them, and other people that had 100,000. But it's really, they will look at your business plan. You work with them. You ask them where, and all you have to have initially is I think $50,000 revenue, and then you can apply for their funding.
And Isabel
Absolutely,
and Nita,
yes.
I wanted to mention just another resource for folks too. So I live somewhere that's very rural, and across Canada, there's organizations, if you look it up in your different areas, and they're called Community Futures. So I'm on the board member of, I'm a board member of Community Futures Cowichan. And the reason I share that is because most of the folks who come to us have been rejected by a bank, and we have very, basically most, I can speak for my own, they're really welcoming. They sit down with you. They want to hear your story. They want to know what your challenge has been. And we're very, very, very invested in backing basically people who are just starting a business that's going to make a real difference in the community. And that is a very different conversation than you're going to have at a bank. A bank is immediately going to want to see your spreadsheets and numbers and blah blah. And of course, they're going to see your gender and your skin and your sexual orientation. Like that's what they're going to see. When you go into a community futures office, they're wanting to talk to you, and they have millions of dollars. So each office probably has millions of dollars that they want to put into people who are getting the door slammed in their face at banks, and specifically to grow a community. So I highly recommend looking where you are for the community futures office. If you Google it, I'm sure you can find it pretty quickly. Oh yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, absolutely. Community Futures are a fantastic organization to get in touch with, especially if you're living in a more rural, remote area. I'll also share, we do have a Startup Women resource guide, and we have quite a few different organizations attached to that resource guide, various different avenues of funding as well. So if you are curious about looking into that, you can filter by going into the funding and grants category. And there's one more I think I'll also share as well, is the WEOC National Loan Program, and they are currently taking applicants as well. So I'll also put that into the chat as well. So yeah, there are many opportunities, but like each of our speakers here today have said, you really have to look at what will suit your business the best and make the most sense to you, and what's the most viable option for you as well. But incredible to know that you've all sort of bootstrapped and sort of made it your way thus far. So yeah, kudos to each of you for that. So let me see. We still have a little bit more time left. Sarah, there's someone, Miranda is asking you a question in the Q&A box. So they're wondering that they'd love to hear more about how you balance cash flow and carrying inventory. They did a pre-sale and they don't know whether they should carry stock or just go with an open to buy model every couple of months to minimize risk.
That's a really good question. I think it depends on, there are different factors that go into making that decision. I don't know if the model is necessarily there to make that, to do pre-orders as your business model. I know that there was one business here in Calgary that was doing that, and it can lead to frustration. I can even share that when I do things as a pre-order to gauge interest, that people do not read very much or at all. And then I'll very quickly get the email saying, I ordered this on Thursday. Why haven't I received it yet? Those emails are the bane of my existence. And despite, clearly you can put it in bold, you can supersize it, you can, make it huge. People just won't see that. So how you present that information for pre-orders. But I mean, even I'll share the way that I do a pre-order. So I will say, I'm going to make this many of something. I'm going to launch it as a pre-order, and then open it up. And then, I'll be pretty clear as much as possible around an estimated delivery time of which it would either ship or be available in the store for pickup or for purchase. And sometimes that can work really well. And other times it hasn't worked at all. And I've pulled it from the website. Because I won't, if there's just no interest in something and you have that ability, you can pull it off before having made it. But I can't say that's specific to my business. That won't necessarily work if you're, for example, manufacturing something overseas and have to pay, for example, an upfront deposit. So there's pros and cons to that, but yeah, learning how to manage inventory, and honestly, it really depends on sales. Drive a lot of my decisions. So, that's the top factor. So how much I make of something, if it's something that I consider to be a staple of what I offer, or if it's something, for example, the Tailor for President shirt is not going to be something I make for the rest of my business life, because that's like a moment and there's an upcoming American presidential election. But if it's my first and original design, which continues to be like the bestseller of the brand, then yeah, that's something I'm always going to have. But sales really depend on what I make more of. Do I make it again? And am I making new things? That the sales give me the ability to innovate and try new things. And if there are no sales or less sales, then that really drives my decision making in what I'm able to do and offer.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarah. Miranda, I hope that answers your question. And yeah, fantastic question. Hopefully that sort of answered a few other people's problems as well. So we have about 4 minutes left until we go into our networking breakout rooms. So I do want to give anyone else a moment to ask a question to sort of close us out. If not, I've many questions that I can pick from, but like I said, I'd love to give any priority to any attendees here today. You can also save your questions for the networking breakout rooms as well. That's absolutely no problem. So if no one's volunteering a question, I'll go ahead and ask one. And I'd love to take advantage of Rowena being here as well to talk about the logistical side of things. So maybe that's sort of what I'll close out this segment with. So to each of you, as well as Rowena, how do you effectively navigate the logistical challenges such as shipping, or you're organizing your packaging, distribution? How are each of you sort of navigating this, and any resources that you've tapped into for that? And Kate, maybe I'll go to you first.
Yeah, we're still figuring out. I have to say, with shipping, it's still something that we're experimenting with a lot, and we're looking forward to building that relationship with UPS for sure. We've been able to manage it in smaller amounts because we're e-comm and just basically, but we're also much to like the conversation around luxury brands. At this point, we are just making it really clear that we have like 2 tiers of shipping, and then at a certain point, per what Sarah was saying, we're going to just build that into the cost. I know there was a great Startup Canada panel where they were basically saying, there really is no such thing as free shipping. We just build it into the cost of our products and the cost of our business model. So we definitely are doing that. Like once there's a specific order value, then we definitely are doing free shipping from that model. We're mostly doing a combination of UPS and then other services that can, especially because we're rural, we'll get things to a hub like Vancouver or Toronto, and then they can be distributed out, and that saves us. It's a little bit longer for the customer, but it does give us another option to reduce the shipping cost. Now, we're not shipping into the States yet, so we're focused on Canada at this point. It'll be a different conversation. So if anybody else is shipping into the States, they can speak to that.
I can definitely speak to that. So just with UPS, I love UPS. So for me, I was doing Canada Post initially, and Canada Post ended up going on strike. And so for me, I fell into UPS by accident. It was, in my mind, was so much more expensive. I couldn't do it. And then they came to the rescue when Canada Post went on strike. What I ended up finding out was, and I think through Startup Canada as well, you've got discounts for companies. Is that right? You still have those discounts through UPS? So that's what I ended up using, was the discounts. What I didn't know is that shipping in the US for us is actually cheaper than if we're getting across Canada. Canada is so big that getting a product from Ottawa to Vancouver is more expensive than getting a product from Ottawa to California. Like it just, the size. And so if you are thinking that you don't want to get into the US because of shipping, I would say kind of mark that off your calendar. It's not an issue. And the other thing too is UPS makes it really easy when you end up, as long as you know your UPS code and you know your HS, as long as you know your HS code and you know some of the logistics, UPS can even help you with that, but that's very simple. if you're sending the same types of products through anything under $800, you've just opened yourself up to a massively, a huge market. So I would say UPS has helped in our local shipping, our international shipping, but our products are also made in India. So we're also getting containers from India to Ottawa. We used a couple of different ways, and the freight is very different than air shipping. And so look at those as two separate things altogether. But for air shipments, UPS has been our partner. And if any time you get stuck on something, there's a person to call. We've always been really, really, really grateful for our contact person, because I will say, right now I'm dealing with an issue where something went out to the US and it went to the wrong place and we're trying to get it back. And how do I get across the border? It was literally pick up the phone. Can you help me with this? This package went here. How do I get it back? It's done. And so don't assume that you have to fight every battle on your own. Use the resources that are around you. And there's also, if anyone's heard of ShipStation, does anyone use ShipStation for everything? The other thing too is there's a number of people that have these large organizations like ShipStation have, because of their volume, have higher discounted rates. So they're still using UPS, but you do it through their account. And we've also found that to be really helpful at times as well. So we're still using the same partners, just even more discounted rates. So for us, shipping hasn't been an issue. Like in terms of the inflation, we found that there's expenses in other areas that we're trying to battle, but shipping hasn't been one of them.
I use Canada Post, and I will say, my decision, some people, like, to this day, I don't understand. They're still like weighing every single item, every single package. At least with Shopify, you can input the weights for packaging and for items. And so it just magically tells you what the cost will be. And it doesn't just tell you what the cost would be with Canada Post, but with also UPS and FedEx, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember the page in my head. But it makes it really easy and integrated. And one of the things that really matters to me is my time. And so something that makes my life easy, even if there's a cost associated to it, depending on how much that cost will really drive my decision making. That being said, and to Nita's point, if you're not familiar with an HS code, it's the code that gets attached to whatever it is, from a pencil to a pair of pants to like literally everything has a code assigned by the government, so that when something crosses the border, they know how to assess the duties and taxes on it. And Canada Post actually has a website where you can go and look those up yourself. And you can even input them into Shopify, and it just lives with the product information on the back end. So it just gets saved. So it's very easy. But I think that, there's so much to say about shipping. It's kind of like it's not like the most glamorous thing. I will say, related to shipping, but not necessarily what has been discussed so far, is having really clear policies for your business in terms of not only what does your shipping cost if you are charging for it, but also what are your return policies. So are you going to do you offer free returns, or are you like me and the customer has to pay to send something back, and then they also have to pay to send the other item out? So if they're making an exchange, that's not something that I pay. That's something that the customer has to cover. And so being really clear in your customer page around what your return and exchange policies are, and even with final sales, that protects you from people who will possibly want to take advantage of you and your business. And there's a cost to everything. And so if you're constantly shipping and sending things for free, that product might have had a value to begin with, but you might actually end up in a negative position And that's not the way you can run a successful business. So for anyone who's in the process of developing or thinking about starting a business, or even, you can constantly tweak those policies, but just make sure that they work for you first and foremost, and they protect you as a business.
Excellent point, Sarah, about the policies and all of the things that come under that umbrella. Really, really great point. All right, we are just finished with the panel discussion. We've got just under 30 minutes left in the session, so we're gonna dedicate the rest of that time to our networking breakout rooms. So to give you an idea about these breakout rooms, firstly, I highly recommend that you stay around for them. It's a really great way for you to widen out your community with other folks within this space, as well as get to speak a little bit more closely to each of our speakers. So I have the room set up. We'll have between 3 to 4 people in each room, and the rooms will last for about 9 minutes each. And I firstly ask that everyone introduces themselves in the room, and then let the people know in the room if there is a specific ask that you have or a specific offer that you have. So, if maybe your ask someone else can answer, or a specific offer that you have, whether that's an introduction or a piece of advice, perhaps the other person in the room, that's exactly what their ask will be. Or if you have a question that you didn't feel comfortable asking in this space, perhaps you feel more comfortable asking it in these rooms. They're completely private, they're not recorded. So just keep that in mind. And then also I just ask that everyone is respectful of one another, ensure that everyone gets a chance to speak to each other. Please be respectful of everyone's personal beliefs, and all the things to make it the most comfortable and safe environment for everyone in the room.